Hi, this is Jared Held with Paw Saving Paws in the Dog Rescue Heroes series. And today we're with Stephanie Passmore from Baton Rouge. And I know her from when I was in Baton Rouge, and we've stayed in touch throughout the years. And recently, in the last, I would imagine, year or so, we've talked a lot about dog rescue, all the things that are going on, and she shared her different stories with me, and has really been an inspiration for the emotions and the passion I have to help dogs as much as possible with saving their lives and having better situations. And so I'm just real excited that Stephanie is our first person that we're interviewing because she's the highlight of it all. And so appreciate that. So Stephanie, tell us a little bit about, your part in dog rescue and how that works in your life and how that fits in with everything that you have going on.
Hey, okay, well, it's more like how everything else fits into dog rescue in my life. Um, but you know, I'm doing this out of my home currently, which most rescues do. So it's a round the clock thing, and there's no sick days, there's no time off. You just do what you have to do, and it is a 24/7 job pretty much. So just getting help. I live next door to my parents, and my dad's retired, and so he helps me a lot while I'm at work.
Okay.
Um, and just getting whoever can volunteer or stop by the house and do whatever while I'm gone. Just kind of get it where I can.
And how many dogs are you fostering right now?
Ooh, that question. Right now I have probably 16
Okay.
or 17. Yeah.
So you have
Yeah.
17 dogs you foster, also a couple other jobs that you do as well, and still fit
Hmm.
all that in there. Um,
And then my personal dogs. Yeah.
oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Hmm.
So what would you say, we'll start on the positives. Can you share one or two stories about different rescues you've been involved in and the impact, how that made you feel, and a little bit of the background of the story?
Yeah. So, two of my favorite stories. One of them was Kaz. He was a pit bull who was tied to a tree in Lafayette, Louisiana. And he was left for like 2 months before anyone said anything. Um, and then they were going to come out and get him and euthanize him because he was a pit bull and obviously had a crappy life. And typically that's just a problem waiting to happen. So, um, a rescue in Indiana heard about it and they said that they would help him, but they had to have a foster. And someone had the great idea to call me and let me know that. And so, of course, they asked me if I could keep him for the weekend. It was a Friday. So I asked a friend of mine to go down, and he got there 10 minutes after the shelter closed. They were going to euthanize Kaz that weekend.
Oh wow.
Um, so they came back and reopened the shelter to let him get him. He came back to me. 8 months later, the rescue abandoned him and all of his vet bills with me.
Oh,
And I had this dog that was not well. He was healthier at the time, but behavior issues. I mean, he was tied to a tree his entire life. Um, and it was bad. I thought I was going to get kicked out of my neighborhood. Neighbors were constantly coming knocking on my door because he couldn't be inside, but he was so uncomfortable outside. Um, got him, found him a home in Austin, Texas, thought it was perfect.
wow.
Drove him there. It crashed and burned. So I had like 3 days to go back and get him a month later. So then a few months after that, and it was a struggle the whole time. I would lay next to a kennel and just cry, and he would bark. And we spent so many nights like that. And I was pretty much starting to lose hope. And this young couple, funny enough, from Lafayette, where he came from, um, they saw a post that I made one day on social media, and they don't have kids. They have a few acres and a couple rescue dogs, and they took him in, took off of work for a couple of weeks to spend with him.
Wow.
And he is like the most normal lap dog ever. I
And
never
he's a
saw that
good
coming.
sized pit bull
I would have
lapdog.
told you it couldn't have happened. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I would have never thought that could happen.
Gotcha. So
Um,
you put in
love that.
months and months working with the dog, huh?
Yes, Kaz, all together, I had him probably a year and a half.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what inside of you really drives that when it's such a challenge like that to keep going and being able to work and work and work towards finding a home or driving from Louisiana to Texas and things of that nature? Like what deep down inside you brings that out?
It's not Kaz's fault that he was how he was. And that's how I see it with all of them. And so once I'm in it, I'm not getting out of it until they're okay, you
Right.
know.
Gotcha.
So
So Kaz is good, happy, and back in
Kaz
Lafayette.
is so happy. So happy. I'll have to share some pictures with you. He is living, he's snuggled up in someone's bed with them right now. And I couldn't even keep him inside my house for the first 6 or 7. He wouldn't go inside. He was so uncomfortable.
Oh,
So
wow.
that is the biggest success story that I have is Kaz.
That's fantastic. And just the
Yeah,
dedication, the time, and the driving. And you do all this out of your own pocket too. Is that correct?
that is correct.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Again, that's why, like I told you on the phone earlier in the interview we started, you're just what you're able to do is such an inspiration to let other people know that it's possible. People have jobs, people have things going on, and think they don't have the time. But in reality, when we look at you and your schedule and the things that you have on your plate, it's a matter of you can make time if you want to. It's just really that choice.
That's right. That's right.
So talk a little bit about, maybe one of the tougher situations you've had and that experience.
Um, there there's been so many sad stories. There's been a lot of the saddest things for me is whenever, you know, there is a dog who has an owner and we can't get law enforcement to do anything to help this dog that we see suffering. And that's kind of like where rescue has so many different parts of it. And the Humane Society of Louisiana here, where I live, they work on laws and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, these things are being improved, are being worked on. We're trying to see some improvement after a very long time of trying, but it's really the neglect and stuff that we see that we can't do anything about. You can try to talk to the owner and try to help make the dog more comfortable, but unless you want to go sneak around at 2 a.m. and steal the dog, which happens. It
Right.
happens. But those are really the most difficult things is when we can't physically, get a hold of the dog. And then there's people who dump their animals. That is such a common thing in these rural
Yeah.
areas. And they're scared to death because they've not had any human interaction and they run into these deep, thick woods and a lot of times never to be seen again. Or, we try to go after them and that ends up usually a disaster. um,
Sure.
but you know.
Yeah. And how do you make it to the next day when all the challenging, sad stories in those situations arise and you have to keep going?
Like I actually we talked about for a second earlier, but sometimes it just gets you down for a little while, and some stories I can't get over. There's so many things I can't unsee. But when I come home, there's a total of like 25 dogs looking at me like, I need a potty, I want to play, and there's people calling who need help, or, um, you have to, they all matter, so not just the most unfortunate ones matter, the unfortunate ones, it kind of is just, you have to, spread your attention out.
Okay. Gotcha. And I guess like you're saying with the 20 different dogs for the play and stuff like that, I'm guessing some of the dogs can play together, some maybe not based on their situations. So that's something you have to learn how to figure out, or how does that work?
It is different with every single dog. Yes, you're right. There's a learning curve with every dog. When I get them, I keep them separated from everybody until they're fully vaccinated, and I know that they're healthy enough to be around. And then I have two personal dogs who I temperament test dogs with, to see if they're good with bigger dogs, or only male dogs, or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
And a lot of times that stuff can be learned too,
Right.
but there has been cases where there's no coming back from what they've been through. Since I deal with pit bulls a lot, a lot of times I deal with the ones who have been taught to kill other dogs. And
Gotcha.
so right now I have three dogs who have to be completely separated from anyone or any other dog. And I don't, for two of them at least, that'll never change.
Right. And so is that in that situation, is it they'll just stay with you, or
As of right now, yeah.
okay.
Unless I can find a better situation for them, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's amazing, the stories you shared with me in the past, and like you sharing now. It's just it's amazing. Like I was saying, what you do is just so fantastic. Let me switch the conversation a little bit towards when the rescue dogs are in the shelter. There's a lot of different variables that go on, in that situation. And talk a little bit about, if there's any anxiety or how it impacts the dog where they're there and there's maybe another 100 dogs and they're barking and barking and they're all barking all day long and they're in that.
Well, hopefully you're not about to hear the domino effect on my end.
Okay.
A little bit over there is getting excited. Um, some dogs handle it better than others. A lot of dogs do tend to shut down in a shelter environment. In a situation like what I have, I have at least a bedroom that I can put somebody struggling with that in. But in a shelter, unfortunately, right now, that will be considered a behavior problem, and they'll just be moved to the top of the euthanasia list. Um, and a lot of times, the shelter is able to identify this dog was sweet upon arrival. And every day we've seen his head hang lower and lower and lower, and
Yeah.
hopefully people will pay attention to that and give the dog a chance. You can't really judge a dog in a shelter.
Right.
It's just not a fair thing to do.
Makes sense. And how does the different weather elements impact them? Because they're, in outside a lot, as well, and when it's extreme heat or cold or rain, how do they deal with that?
Um, well, storms are another trigger for anxiety.
Okay.
That's usually almost a bigger issue than barking. Um, but I mean, they don't really have the dogs don't really have a choice, and a lot of these shelters are ran by volunteers, and there's not much time that they have, in each shelter in Louisiana. I think there's an average of 15 minutes per day that each dog gets outside of a kennel.
The kennel or a run, like a crate or a actual bigger area?
No, like a crate.
Oh, wow.
There's some shelters who have the indoor outdoor thing, but not many. And
Okay.
those dogs get like zero human interaction usually. Um, but a lot of them, they're in crates. And I mean, we've had terrible a couple of years ago, there was 103 dogs seized from a rural shelter in a area in Louisiana, and it was like an emergency throw up 103 outdoor pens. And of course, we made them as comfortable as we could, but those dogs were like not let out of their kennels, cages, crates, like small crates, too small for them for months. For
Wow.
months. Like it was unreal the conditions that these dogs came in. And I'm not saying it started with bad intentions, but you know, it ended up terrible, really terrible. And there's just too many dogs and not enough volunteers and not enough time.
Gotcha. So on average, they're in that crate or the run or whatever it might be for like 23 hours, 45 minutes a day.
Correct.
Wow. And based on what you're saying, I think I know the answer, but I want to ask, is there any type of formal training that they do with the dogs to try to rehabilitate them so they have a better opportunity to be adopted?
At a shelter or with a rescue?
I would say the shelter or rescue, I guess it'd all be different. Someone might have a couple dogs, they could do that. But I would say something along the lines if they have 20, 30, 40, 50 dogs.
A shelter is not going to put forth any effort in any type of behavior issues at all. A lot of the shelters don't even properly vet dogs before they adopt them out, just because um, there's way too many coming in and not enough going out.
Right.
So they're just, if they can save a life, they're going to do it. Assuming their intentions are good, that's what they're thinking. Now, as far as like with a rescue or, an independent rescuer, is myself. I will do everything I can. I won't adopt a dog out unless I feel 100% confident that that dog is safe, and the people that, the home and the family members are safe. Um, and, like food aggression is a thing, and it's a thing
Okay.
sometimes that they don't get over. And so as long as the family is educated and they know and they're willing, that's fine. But that's pretty much the only behavior issue that I've ever ran into, um, that I've not been able to get over, but still willing to adopt a dog out with.
Okay. Gotcha. And so, what my vision is. We've talked about that and how I want to do rescue differently. Um, so what are your thoughts if the dog had 3 to 4 hours of play outside every day, how that would impact them?
That would be amazing. That would be great. If they had a chance to be around other dogs, because a lot of times even dogs at my house, like right now, I'm quantity over quality for sure.
Right,
So there's a lot of dogs that if I'm not sure how this is gonna go, I don't have 3 hours to monitor them.
right.
You know, so it's not going to happen. Everyone's getting their own individual time and space, and you know, so if there was 3 or 4 hours where they had human interaction and they were monitored, and had other dogs around, that would be, because that's like your home situation. When you
Sure.
adopt a dog out, that's what you hope they're going to get, right? So
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes
that
sense.
would
And
be
you were
great.
talking when you also were talking about the weather is probably more anxiety than the barking. How would it impact them as well if they were in an indoor facility where there was some soundproofing in the different runs that they were in, so they wouldn't hear the storms or be around the storms and wouldn't be um, really have to deal with the different weather elements.
That's my dream come true. I have to sedate everybody when there's a storm.
Wow, yeah,
um,
good stuff. I know Soleil, my little
yeah.
angel, runs and hides behind the couch or under a bed whenever it starts thundering.
Yes. Yes. My oldest girl, and it started out with just her and I. And um, so there is no fixing it because it would have been fixed by now. She is petrified of it sprinkling outside.
Right.
So, I mean, that would cut down so much anxiety, so much. And then even like at night, a lot of dogs are leery of going outside at night,
Okay.
depending on the situation that they come from. Um, I mean, oh, yep, domino effect.
Yeah. No, that's what you're supposed to hear behind you. No, no surprises.
Sorry, there
No
is nothing
snow. It's
I can
all
do
good.
about it. um, yeah, that would be amazing. That would cut out a lot of issues.
Right. And what about if there was a formal type training program where it could be the basic training, it could be to sit, it could be to try to get them housebroken or to go on pee pads while they're inside or whatever it might be. But like an actual trainer that trains dogs would do that while they're there. And then also in the first week or 2 weeks, there'd be sessions where the new family could come in with the rescue and do training together
Yeah,
to make it even, better.
that would be great. Um, Especially, offering that to the family, because everything changes again for the dog when they get adopted for the better, but they don't know that yet. Um, I have a trainer actually adopted a dog from me. She was not a trainer at the time. I think he kind of really impacted her life, and she changed career paths, and she's got a teenage daughter. Like, she was very set in her career and very successful, and now she is an amazing. She's a dog whisperer,
Oh, wow.
and so yeah, so she is kind enough to help me in situations that are a little bit tougher, um, and the difference it makes is unreal.
Yeah, I would imagine
It's
so.
unreal.
And what about, I don't know the answer to this, when they're in the shelters or the rescue, how often they get bathed or if they get groomed. I would imagine if they're only out 15 minutes a day, the answer is probably no. If they
Mhm.
were able to be groomed, like an actual real grooming,
Mhm.
and if they needed a haircut, whatever it might be, where they got that ability to, like Soleil, when after she gets her haircut, she just little has an extra little strut because she's happy because she's all clean and everything like that. So
Yes.
how much of an impact would that be on the dog, but also on the days to adoption to lower that so you have more dogs being adopted in a quicker amount of time, so you have more room to save other dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, you have any behavior issues or anxieties that you can work on. I'm given a bath, it's a 50-50 chance that um, you're going down
Right.
and the dog's not getting a bath. Um, and so that's also a positive thing with it, is that, to get a dog comfortable, because typically I've got to let her out of her
No,
playpen. I'm so sorry.
no, that's fine.
um, Typically that's a big deal.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. My English Bulldog Blue that I had that passed, he was not fond of baths and would want to do the whole entire bite thing. He never actually bit me, but he didn't enjoy
Mm-hmm.
it at all. So I understand what you're saying there. You know,
Yeah.
and I would say the more specifically, what I'm trying to do, put together at Paws Saving Paws, is a model where it's not just based on donations, because there's so many different rescues and shelters out there that need money, and there's only so many people that can donate, and there's only so many they can choose to donate to. So I want to put together an indoor
Yeah.
dog park for the public. That way they can bring their dogs there for grooming, for boarding, for playtime, regardless of the weather, training sessions, things of that nature. And every time you bring your dog in for play, that pays for one of the rescue dogs to get play. Every time a dog gets groomed, a rescue gets groomed. So the model that I'm thinking is that if we're able to really build a rehabilitation program where the dogs are groomed, they're out 3, 4 hours a day in the play area. There'll be different areas based on the dog's aggressions and how they are with other dogs. Really giving them training to give them a better chance to be successful. And from there, the revenue, all of the revenue and profits would go directly to the dog rescue. So it's pretty much how can we generate revenue? So on top of donations, we have more money to bring in so we could do more for the dogs, where then we could do the training, the grooming, the playtime, and things of that nature, and really make a difference. How do you think that type of system would help and make what type of difference that would make?
I think that would be amazing. I mean, look how many look how many people go to dog parks and stuff, and I mean, to think, I don't know, it rains here every what, day and a half.
Right.
So to think of still being, and people depend on that, dogs, you have some dogs that are dogs, and no matter how many humans are around, they want that dog interaction, and
Sure.
you're not going to get it if it's raining.
Right.
There's something as simple as that.
Yeah. And my thought too is there'd be when you drive up, there'd be a big um top. So that way you could drop your dog off and not have to walk through the rain or the heat or whatever the elements are that are preventing you to go from to the regular dog park.
Yeah.
Just all those types of things. Having a bar, restaurant, food, so that way we can make it where people get together with their dogs. And every piece of this is purely to generate more revenue for rescue because all the money would go there. And that's the goal that I'm searching for and really working hard on. And again, I appreciate you more than you know for the inspiration that you've given me to start on this and and work on it and just go every day on it. And I thank you so much for your time. And is there anything else that you think is important to finish on to know about rescue for someone that maybe is thinking about wanting to do it, but just maybe is on the ledge still?
Like I had mentioned earlier, there's several different parts to one rescue. When they say it takes a village, it really does. So I mean, what you're doing is amazing. I think it's absolutely incredible, and I love your heart. And so even people who can't do a whole lot, even just supporting something like what you're wanting to do, you know, just take a little better care of your dog and you're helping with rescue, you
Yeah.
know.
You
So,
buy
and
yourself
then
lunch,
also,
and that buys food for 10 rescue dogs.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And then also, like I try to get people to understand what we had said about, a dog spending 23 hours and 45 minutes in a kennel a day. So anyone who thinks that they don't have time for their dog and it's not fair for their dog, so they drop them off at a shelter,
Right.
that's what you're dropping them off to, or if you don't have time to foster because you work 8 or 10 hours a day, well, that's what your you know other option is.
Right. So
So
even if you had an hour or 2 hours a day, that's a night and day difference for the dog.
absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for your time and everything you do, and I appreciate
Yeah.
you. And again, thank you for being the first person on the series because I wanted to make sure it was you. And other than that, thank you so much for your time.